capital, we're in a little bit of a heat wave, so I thought I'd do another video. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about the application process and the way that it works and the steps that I've taken so far, and then a little bit about housing as well. So to start out with the application process, I applied on the Disney Careers website under a job posting for a Canadian Cultural Representative program. They usually have those up most of the year, but sometimes it varies. So I started by applying online. I did that in August of last year. And then I hadn't heard anything for a while. I know their process is kind of slow, so be patient. I know it's hard. In October, I received an email inviting me to an interview taking place in Toronto. So that was held, I believe, on November 9th. They have an office downtown, right near Union Station. It's up on the 29th floor of a huge office building, and they have a really nice view, actually, of the CN Tower and the Rogers Centre. I'm not from Toronto. I went and stayed with my sister. Some people at the interview were traveling from really far away. The first two people I met, one was from Winnipeg and one was from Prince Edward Island. And I don't think I quite realized how far people were coming just for this interview and how big of a deal it was, because for me, Toronto is just a 4-hour drive, so not too bad. We did have to be there for 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't like to be late. I get really anxious, so I had to get there pretty early. It's hard to get downtown Toronto for 9 a.m., so a lot of people stay over the night before, or those flying in spend a couple of days. And then on the interview day, they start out with an info session. They want to tell everybody about the program, give you information that you probably didn't necessarily know. They show you some promotional videos and some information from people that have done the program and their thoughts, and it gets really exciting. You get really amped up from watching it, and sometimes you can't help but think, if I don't get in, it's the end of the world. But it's not the end of the world, but it's really great to be able to participate on the program. From the info session, you meet all sorts of people. I suggest that you talk to people. I didn't know anybody before going there, and now I've met probably a dozen or so people from the interview that I've talked to and got to know, many of which were accepted, and a lot of them are already there. The arrival dates for my interview time started in March, and I have one of the later ones. They start in October. Basically, at the interviews, they ask you some kind of trivia, so it's also really good to know things about Disney World, things like how many parks there are, what they're called, anything you know about, really anything, who the Fab Five are, Epcot specifically, what it stands for, which is Environmental Prototype Community of Tomorrow, and things like how many pavilions there are and which they all are, what are they called. That was a little bit tough. There are 11 of them. And then just anything you can kind of know. They ask you questions, they give you little prizes, so it's just kind of to get you excited, less nervous. They tell you all sorts of things about housing and the roles that you'll be playing and different things like that. They also, the interviews themselves, you come back for them afterwards. It's a one-on-one situation. They last about 15 to 20 minutes. They ask you not too many questions, but they ask you where you're from. They ask you for an interesting fact about Canada or your hometown. So, for example, I'm from Ottawa. It's the capital. A lot of people think Toronto is, but that's the capital of Ontario. So we're the national capital. What else? 2017 marks the 150th anniversary of Canada, so there's going to be a lot of festivities here going on, and I won't be here to see them because I'll be in Florida. Other things like the Rideau Canal is a big deal, and how it's a tradition to eat a beaver tail, and you often have to explain what it is, how it's a pastry and it's not meat. things like that. They'll ask you if you have any tattoos because they have very strict Disney look guidelines. What else? Which role you're most interested in, why you want to work at Disney, why you'd be suitable, things like that. It's not hard. You just tell them what you know. I talked a lot about how great my last program was and how badly I wanted to go back. After the interview process, I heard back like a week before Christmas that I was accepted. From that date, you have 30 days to accept your position and pay your program fee. And then after that, you just get a few emails every once in a while. Because my arrival date is so far away from when I was accepted, there's a lot of waiting. So far, I've gotten emails about doing a police check, so I've submitted that. You have to insert all sorts of like passport information right off the bat as well. And then I've also received an email with the Disney Look guidelines. That's kind of it for the interview process so far. Soon I'll hear back about my visa, and they've changed things now. About 3 weeks before, you put in your housing choices and your preferences, and then they actually tell you now which complex to check in at, whereas before everybody would check in at Vista and you would just figure out where you were living after that. So now you have the opportunity to know, I guess, which complex you'll be living in beforehand, so that's new. And that's really it for, as far as I know so far, with the program. So we'll see what happens in the future.